Remember these words: prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's training. If you're joining me live, say hello. If you're joining me on the replay, type in replay. In medicine, there's a quote: prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Very important that you write that down. And what that means is giving a patient medication before you've done an accurate diagnosis is considered unethical and illegal. And there's a lot of coaches out there in our field who are giving people coaching programs before they've even done an effective diagnostic. And I believe that is both unethical and should be illegal. Now, we can't change what they do, but we can change what we do. So in this training, I'm going to introduce to you examination, diagnosis, and prescription. And what I call this is the doctor's method. Because when doctors see a patient, they start with an examination, they then offer a diagnostic, and then they offer a prescription. And we can do the exact same thing as coaches. And we can have a very high ethical standard in our coaching practices. So we're going to do an effective examination. Once we've done an examination, we're going to offer a diagnostic. Once we've reviewed the diagnostic, then we will prescribe a coaching program. So remember those words: prescription before medication is malpractice. That's the first thing. The second thing I want you to remember is this: an accurate diagnosis is half the cure. Be sure to write that one down. An accurate diagnosis is half the cure. So what it means for us as coaches, if we do a really good diagnostic, then half of their problems will immediately disappear, because we'll know exactly what they need to do, when they need to do it, and how it needs to be done. So remember, an accurate diagnosis is half the cure. So let's go back to the other coaches out there in the community who aren't diagnosing their clients scientifically. They're just doing guesswork. They're giving people prescriptions. They're programs, which is unethical because they haven't done an accurate diagnosis. And maybe this has happened to you before. Maybe you've joined a mastermind. Maybe you've joined a group coaching program and you spend a whole year in that program just to realize that it wasn't the right program for you. Now, did that program move you forward in life? Or did it move you backwards in life? So you can spend a whole year working on the wrong skill. And if your coach, if your trainer, if your teacher, your master allows you to go in the wrong direction, that is malpractice, because they sold you a program that wasn't right for you. And they would have sold you something without an accurate diagnosis. So let's do things differently. Remember this: an accurate diagnosis is half the cure. So by knowing what's holding the client back, immediately you can give them an accurate diagnosis. You can put them in the right program. Half of their problems will disappear and you'll be half the way closer to the solution. Remember that one. So let's have a look here. What is an examination in our coaching practice? Well, for my NLP students and for my timeline therapy students who are also NLP coaches, in NLP coaching, we do what's called a personal history. And we reviewed the client's personal history for a total of 4 hours. We spend 4 hours figuring out how the client has created this problem in their life. And we must examine the situation. We must get clarity on how they've created this problem. And I believe we need to spend a minimum of 4 hours especially if we want to do a very effective timeline therapy intervention. Now, the diagnostic tool that we use in Business in a Box in the 100x DNA Accelerator is we use the DISC tool. We use the science of DISC. It's a scientific formula. It's a scientific assessment. We get a scientific report that shows us our clients' behaviors. So we're diagnosing their behaviors using the science of DISC. And this is really important because 65% of our behaviors have been fixed at birth. So for my timeline therapy students, it's because of past lives. It's because of genealogical bloodlines. It's because of the time in the womb. And each person comes in to this life with a very unique personality. And we say that 65% of those characteristics are fixed at birth. Now, the other 35% are learned along the way. And there's 3 time periods that we're having a look at. We're looking at age 0 to age 7. And we call this the imprint period. iPad will come back on in a second. We call this the imprint period. And then from ages 8 to 14, we call this the modeling period. And then from age 15 to age 21, we go into the socialization period. And these are all 3 very complex periods of people's life. Now, in the first, hopefully we get this back on, in the first 7 years of our life, the people and the environment around us have a significant influence on our personality. All of our negative emotions happen in the first 7 years of our life. We start to have the root cause of particular events, maybe even traumas. We have Uden moments. We also have significant emotional events in the first 7 years of our life. And this is called the imprint period. Mimetically, the conversations that our parents are impacting our personality. World events are impacting our personality. And our values are already locked into place by age 10. So what that means is the problems that we're having in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, our 60s, and our 70s had their creation in the first 10 years of our life. And as we grow older, we start to have conflicts with those values and those belief systems that have been imprinted upon us when we did not have a conscious mind. So think about this. Children really don't develop a conscious mind till after age 7. So what happens is the world just imprints upon them and there's no critical faculty. There's nothing that stops that information coming in because the children don't have judgment or consciousness at that stage to decide what's right or wrong. So let's have a look at that. DISC reveals our behavioral style. Remember, 65% of our personality is fixed at birth. And then the other 35% is influenced by the imprint period, the modeling period, and the socialization period. All those negative emotions, the root cause of negative emotions, our first significant emotional events, our traumas, our limiting decisions, our phobias, all have their roots in the first 7 years of our life. So that's really important to remember. So the diagnostic helps us understand the person's behavioral preferences. It helps us understand their motivational wants and needs. So just like a doctor, remember before we said this is the doctor's method. The doctor starts with an examination. The doctor then offers us a diagnostic. And then after reviewing the diagnostic, only then will a doctor prescribe medication. Now, what we do as coaches is we do an examination, which is our personal history. Our diagnostic is our DISC assessment. And once we've done these, then we can prescribe our coaching program. And when we do that, it's both ecological and ethical. And what that means is it's good for the individual. It means it's good for their family. It means it's good for the community, and it means it's also good for the planet. And if our program doesn't reach all those 4 levels of ecology, then we should never prescribe our coaching program to the individual. 1, it's got to be good for them. 2, it's got to be good for their family. 3, it's got to be good for the community. And 4, it's got to make the world a better place. And if your program can't reach all 4 levels of ecology, then prescribe them something else. If you can't prescribe them something else, prescribe nothing at all. Now, the tools we use are NLP coaching, timeline therapy, and navigational conversations. So this is our doctor's method as coaches. So let's quickly review. The doctor's method: examination, diagnosis, and prescription. And remember, prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Secondly, an accurate diagnosis is half the cure. By going through the personal history, by going through their DISC report, you'll figure out what the problem really is, and you'll half solve the problem. Thirdly, we always follow the doctor's method. Examination is our personal history. Our diagnostic is our DISC scientific report. Our prescription is our coaching program, and the tools we're going to use are NLP, timeline therapy, navigational conversations, plus anything else that you've learned along the way. So let's start to have a look here. Let's take a look at how we can use DISC to diagnose our clients' behavioral problems. Now remember, DISC is not a clinical tool. We're not saying somebody's got bipolar. We're not saying that somebody is depressed. They're clinical terms. What we're having a look at is we're having a look at their behaviors. We're having a look at their motivational wants and needs. And we're having a look if any of these are a conflict and create mental or emotional blockages. So we're going to reveal some DISC reports here, and we're going to have a look at both the natural and adapted styles. We're going to have a big picture look at some of the possible things that could be creating a challenge for the client. So when we have a look at this DISC report, we can see that the graph on the right and the graph on the left look significantly different. And you can see that immediately. The natural style on the right is extremely different to the adapted style on the left. So as I diagnose, as I go through the diagnostic, what I can see here is that the D style from the natural to the adapted, let me just draw the line here, there's a 35-point adaptation. When we have a look at the S style, there's a 22-point adaptation. When we have a look at the C style, there's an 18-point adaptation. And what that means is that the client's energy is moving around a lot. Into the D style, they're putting a lot more energy into the D style. In their S style, they're taking a lot of energy out of the S style. Then the C style, they're putting a lot more energy into here. And what happens is, over time, this creates a lot of stress. Essentially, from their natural to adapted style, they're trying to be a very different person. So the first thing that I want to diagnose is these adaptions. And I've got a couple of key words here. When I look at the S style and the D style, the highest and the lowest, I can see this person is both possessive and questioning. And when I have a look at the other side and I have a look at their D style and their C style, the highest and the lowest, they're a risk taker and opinionated. So I know that at home and at work, they're going to be a very different person. What you see at home is not what you'll get in the workplace. They'll have one face on at home and they'll put another face on at work. And what we have to do together with the client is we have to figure out why they're doing this. Why do they feel they need to have a different face on at home and a different face on at work? Now, remember in my previous videos, we said that people adapt for success. And at home, they adapt for survival. So we've got to figure out what's happening at home, what's happening in the workplace. So if I was coaching this client, first of all, I would prescribe them my coaching program, because in my diagnostic, I can see that there's a lot of adaptions. And for them to get clarity on the adaptions and to be able to coach through it, then they need to be able to join my coaching program. So in my mind, I can help them. That's good for them, it's good for their community, it's good for their family, and it's good for the planet, because they'll start to perform at their best. So when they're coaching with me, what I'd want to do then, only in the coaching program, I'd want to start to identify these conflicts. So do they have any internal conflicts? So over here on the left, what are the internal conflicts that this creates? Secondly, I'd want to have a look at how their style has a conflict with people at home. I'd want to have a look at how they have a conflict with people in the workplace. I'd also want to have a look at how their natural style is a conflict for their job. Because what you'll see here is sometimes if people don't have a clear job description, if they don't have a clear benchmark for performance, is they can be ignorant and they try to adapt. They say to themselves, well, this job requires me to be a different person. And so every day it takes a lot of energy for them to act out as a different person. So I also want to be exploring that. In addition, I also want to have a look at the environment that they're in, because sometimes people are adapting because of their environment. And you can see it here, and it could be an area of concern. So what we can see here is naturally their D style is less active. And we can see here they're adapting and they're putting more energy in there. As I said before, they're putting 35 more points of energy into their adapted style. So maybe the environment is causing them to be more aggressive, to focus more on results, to be more competitive, to take more risks. And that over time could be really draining for the person. So I'd want to identify those conflicts with the individual. We'd want to have a look at their reasons for adaptation. Are they adapting for success or are they adapting for survival? And they're just some of the things that I'd be looking for in my coaching program. Can you see that? Examination, diagnosis, and prescription. Can you see it all coming together? I'm doing an examination, then I'm doing my diagnostic, and only once I'm convinced I can help them will I ever offer them the coaching program. And then I already start to think about the things that I'm going to do in the coaching program. Identify conflicts, discover the reasons for adaptation. So that's sample number 1. Using DISC again, following the doctor's method, I'll be having a look and doing a diagnosis. So when I have a look at this client's report, I can see that the I style, there's an adaptation of 13 points just there. We can see that. We can also see that the S style drops down by 32 points. That's a significant drop. And we can also see here that the S style natural is an extended score. That score is 98. And really what that means is it's where a want becomes a need. A want becomes a need. And the individual will create situations that forces them, in this situation, to stay in their comfort zone. Remember, the high S has a fear of losing stability. So when you see those extended scores above 90, this person's going to create situations where they don't have to change. They'll create situations where they get to stay in their comfort zone. They'll refuse to show their true emotions. They'll even repress their true emotions so they don't have to leave that comfort zone, whatever that is. Is that making sense so far? So the natural style is 98. It's an extended score, and it's where a want becomes a need. So once again, you can see here, there's a lot of energy shifting around, and we want to figure out why that energy is shifting around. And that's what we'd be looking at in the coaching program. So by having a look at this report here and doing my diagnostic, I am absolutely convinced that if this person joins my coaching program, it's going to be good for them. It's going to be good for their community. It's going to be great for the family. And when they get the result, the world will be a better place. So my prescription will be my coaching program. I'll then want to identify the conflicts. How is their disc style an inner conflict? How does their disc style, both natural and adapted, create conflicts with other people? How does their disc style become a conflict with their job? And how, if any, does it conflict with the environment they're in? So just take a look here for a moment. What we can see here, the S style, the highest score and the lowest score here. The two descriptive words here are team player for the high S, and for the low I, suspicious. So these two words just don't go together, do they? Think about it. Have a look. High S is a team player, but low I is suspicious of people. So automatically, when I start to have a look at their descriptive words, I know their high S style and low I style is going to create a conflict, because one wants to be trusting and a team player, but the other style is suspicious of people. And that there alone is going to be a major conflict. I'm already aware of it, and I've now got to coach them through it. I hope you can also see that. Now, when we have a look at the adapted style, we have a look at the high C, and then we have a look at the low I. So the descriptive words here for the high C is high stability. So what they really want is they want a lot of stability and they want high standards. The low I is factual. So what we see here is these two actually are supportive. So these words are supportive and they also reinforce one another, which means those two words become stronger, those descriptive words. High standards and factual. High standards and factual. Those words support one another and they strengthen one another. Where these words here, team player and suspicious, they don't support one another, they don't reinforce one another, and they actually make it weaker. So you can see automatically that there's going to be a lot of conflict between their natural and their adapted style. So once again, I am absolutely convinced. I'm actually convicted that when this person joins my coaching program, I can coach them through these inner conflicts so they don't have those inner conflicts anymore. So a couple of things I could do. I could use timeline therapy. I could use timeline therapy to eliminate this fear of losing their personal security. And I know immediately once they remove that fear, then they should be able to shift that energy in their natural style and it'll settle down. And that want will no longer become a need. So hopefully you can see that already. Remember, this is the doctor's method. Let's refresh once again, just the importance of what we're doing. The doctor's method: examination, diagnosis, and prescription. And prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Number 2, an accurate diagnosis is half the cure. And in the doctor's method, we do an examination, we do a personal history. We do a diagnostic, which is our DISC assessment. Our prescription will be our coaching program, and our tools are NLP, timeline therapy, and navigational coaching. And you can see here just how much thought I'm putting into the diagnosis before I offer the coaching program. And if my diagnosis doesn't come up with areas where I can help them, I'll never prescribe a coaching program. And neither should you. Okay, example number 3. Now, this is quite interesting here. What you can see here is we have an extended eye style. So the score here is above 90, and that's where the want becomes a need. So what does the eye style want? They want recognition. But because it's over 90, it becomes a need. And what they'll do is they'll become very needy, and they will do things to get other people's attention. They might strip off. They might go into OnlyFans. They could talk louder than everybody else. They could come across very superficial. They may make promises that they can't keep. Each individual is going to do it differently. What they're going to do is they're going to get recognition, not because they want it, but because they need it. Let me give you an example. I was working with a network marketing company, and most network marketers never make money. But the high I people, what they will do, and I've seen it, they're known to do it, they will go into debt using the network marketing products just to pump up their sales. I'll give you an example. I had one young woman who was spending £2,000 per month to buy her network marketing products, and should buy them and should put them in the back of the car, should buy them and should put them in the back of the car, just to keep her rank. Because if she kept that diamond level rank, she would get acknowledgement. She'd get a photo with the CEO. She'd be put up on stage. She'd have the diamond badge. She'd get the attention of other people. Now, she wanted recognition, but it became a need. So she went into debt, buying product that she couldn't sell, buying product that she couldn't afford, just to maintain that rank and get the recognition. Everybody's going to do it a very different way. So remember, the want becomes a need. In addition, we can also see the S style. There's a shift of 14 points here. And essentially what it means is when that S style goes down by 14 points, this individual is actually going to be more expressive. So just here, between the high I and the lower S, this person's going to be more expressive, and they're going to get into relationships faster. Isn't that interesting? And then on the opposite side, when we have a look at their adapted style, it shifts again. So what will happen here in the adapted style, they're going to be less expressive and slower to get into relationships. So this could be extremely confusing for this individual. And maybe it's just a mind read. Maybe it's just a best guess that in their personal life, they're making promises they can't keep. They're trying to keep everybody happy, but in business, they're not willing to do the same. So maybe, I'm not saying this is the truth, it could happen. I'm not saying it's a fact, but it could create problems at home and at work. So you can start to see that there's a lot of movement in here. And we want to make sure the person is stable. We want to make sure that their mental and emotional health is stable. So what would I prescribe? I would prescribe this person my coaching program. Firstly, because the diagnostic shows me that there's extended scores. The diagnosis shows me that in their natural style, they're going to be more expressive and faster in relationships. But in the adapted style, they're going to be less expressive of their real emotion and slower. So I know there's going to be a conflict at work. And I know it's going to cause a lot of stress for the individual because they have to put on a mask every single day. So if I was using timeline therapy, I'd first of all remove the fear of being rejected or the fear of not being accepted. And that could be accepted by themselves or somebody else. But they're the things that I'd start to think through for my timeline therapy intervention. So let's review once again. The doctor's method: examination, diagnosis, and prescription. And as we say, prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. The truth is, an accurate diagnosis is half the cure. and you want to get really good at the diagnostic. You want to get really good with the tool of DISC because it means you can get your client results faster. And in today's world, people respect their time more than their money. Time's running out. You can always get more money, but you can't get more time. So if you can show them that your diagnostic tool can solve their problem faster and easier, they are willing to pay you more. Remember that. They're going to pay you more for speed because they assume you're better. Doctor's method, examination, personal history, diagnostic, your DISC report. Prescription is always your coaching program, and your tools are NLP, timeline therapy, and navigational coaching. So you can see here that your diagnostic tool is very accurate. It's scientific, it's backed by data, it's being completed by more than 40 million business people around the world. It's registered, it's certified, and the science has been tested and proven over time, so it's accurate. So let me know your thoughts. Comment below. What did you learn in this video, and what are you going to do more of in your coaching business? Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day, and I look forward to reading your comments. See you soon.